developing the film, and there's that image that I saw in the viewfinder, and it was still, it was there, and then putting it in those old Bessler enlargers and printing it, and just seeing that magic like carry through that whole process. I think I was hooked from that first roll of film that I shot.
Welcome to the Red, Green, Blue podcast.
So today I'm talking with Bradley Slade, or Brad Slade as he is commonly known, who is the university photographer at Brigham Young University. That means he takes a lot of pictures for the magazines and internal publications and for the websites and things like that.
And I hate to correct, but I'm the photographer for BYU Publications and Graphics, and so which does what you said, but I don't think I can claim to be the university.
Oh yeah, that's true. There's a couple others in other departments, so we wouldn't want to step on any toes. But yeah, so basically, we talked about this a little bit before. So what do you consider your first camera?
So I took a photo class in 1977. My dad was a big camera buff. He actually is a really good photographer. I wish I could be as good as him. He had a bunch of cameras, and he had an old Kodak Retina, which is a little 35 millimeter folding camera, little rangefinder, and a cute camera, like just, the leather case and beautiful little camera. But that was in the day, like you wanted a Nikon or a Canon, but probably you wanted a Nikon in those days, like an SLR. But I remember the first time taking pictures with that camera, taking an assignment. I can't remember what the assignment was, but the assignment for the photo class. And I was up in the mountains above my house. There was some old machinery up there. And I remember finding a detail in the machinery. And I remember looking through that viewfinder and watching as I moved the camera around and watching the composition move. And I don't know how to describe it. It was like a Zen moment. I was just right there. It was amazing, the feeling of power. I don't know, like it was just the most magical thing. And then the cool thing was taking the film back into the darkroom there at Timpview. Linda Peterson was the teacher, developing the film, and there's that image that I saw in the viewfinder, and it was still, it was there, and then putting it in those old Bessler enlargers and printing it, and just seeing that magic like carry through that whole process. And that image I saw in the viewfinder was there, and that was powerful. I really think I was hooked from that first roll of film that I shot. Not that the picture turns out like you think it will, but I really remember that moment of kind of looking and thinking, and then having it print in my hand later on that kind of captured that feeling.
Yeah, that's great. That's a wonderful story. So how do you feel that first camera influenced you? I think you already talked a little bit about that, but like what type of camera it is, how do you think it formed the way your early photography was?
Well, it was an easy camera, to keep with you. It's a funny thing too, like, there were some big shots like Steve Heiner, who's with Nikon World. He was using a Nikon. Everyone used these serious cameras. And so I think I perceived that it was anything but a serious camera. I don't know if that bothered me a ton, but, my dad told me that it was a good camera, and so I believed him. But I think I always wanted something more. But, it was a kind of camera you could keep with you, and I took a lot of pictures with it.
That's good. Yeah. So what is it like at your job? We're just going to skip to that because you told a great story about your first camera.
No.
But what was your next, your main camera, your camera that you were really serious about?
Well, so I used that camera for a couple of years, and then I wanted a more serious camera. And so I got permission from my dad because it was still his camera. And I found a Canon FTB in a pawn shop. I don't remember the price, but I traded in that Kodak Retina with a little bit of cash and got a Canon FTB. And I still think I haven't had it for a long time. It's funny because it ended up in a pawn shop. I don't know what the journey of that camera was, but my sister bought that camera in a pawn shop many years later. But the Canon FTB is a really good camera. Really, it's the way the metering works, where you've got like the lollipop and the needle that you line up, and I don't know. It's like a basic manual camera, but a really elegant piece of camera. I love that thing. And then you could interchange the lenses. You weren't stuck with just one lens. And so I bought a few lenses. And anyway, I love that one.
It's cool. Now, tell us a little bit about your job. I really feel your job is very unique in the field of photography in that you photograph so many different things and there's so many demands. There's basically a team of graphic designers here. and they get all sorts of projects. And the university really functions like a small city. And so you photograph everything with all these little communities. So what do you find most fun about your job here?
Well, I think why I like this job is because I like operating in different modes. I mean, like I like setting up a still life on a table and fussing and finessing the lights and putting a little reflector or a mirror in to put a little piece of light. I like that kind of work. But what I love most, I think, is, especially with children, but people generally, just getting in a real situation and then, instead of making a photograph, just taking it, just just following the action, just trying to, just once again, kind of sinking into the moment and losing track of everything but, what's happening, and trying to kind of, like out of the chaos of what's going on, try to kind of create some kind of order, trying to find an image in it. That's really satisfying to me.
It's great. So what's the most difficult thing about your job?
The most difficult thing about my job is when I've got a picture I'm crazy about and they want a different one. That's the hard thing for me.
Yeah.
Some things are more fun to take pictures of than others, but, I know that I shoot shallow depth of field a lot because, I think not all the environments around here are really poetic. And so I think I do that maybe sometimes to kind of, to let the kind of the environment go away a little bit and to look more at the players and things. But I don't know, the thing that I hate though is just if there's the picture that I love, if it doesn't get used, then it can really bum me out.
Yeah. No, I think that bums a lot of people out. I mean, to me, like as a photographer, that happens all the time to me. And I just kind of think like, well, when I have a museum show, then I'm going to show it, And I just really hope I can work it into like a larger body of work so it can be in a book or a museum show.
Yeah.
Because if the publication doesn't like it, sometimes you're just out of luck.
Yeah.
So you talked about that clarity. Like, why do you think you were drawn to photography? Was it that clarity of thought of like things coming together, that sense of focus, metaphorical focus?
Yeah, I like that. I think all those things. And, the thing is, like I grew up really not good at school. Like what school prized, I wasn't good at. I wasn't good at math or science or writing or reading. I mean, eventually I'm an avid reader, but when I was in school, I couldn't do any of those things. I just thought I wasn't good at anything, but I had spent time around the arts and I really felt like I kind of got that. And so taking pictures, it was like a revelation that I was good at something. I mean, I kind of knew like after I saw that first print, I knew that there was something good there. And so maybe it was just kind of realizing, hey, that's my thing. I can do that. I'm good at it. I don't know.
Well, no, that's really cool. So why do you stay with photography? Like, why do you stick with it?
I don't know. Like by now, I mean, I suppose I'm 53 years old. I mean, I don't know if I've got the courage to change careers, but honestly, there's never been anything else that I've wanted to do as much. I mean, I thought like when I was younger, I thought it's impractical. It's like an impossible thing to do for a living. And so I kind of cast about for things that I could do or, and I had some ideas and thought of pursuing those, but I just always really wanted to do photography. And I just, bless Carolyn, my wife, and she kept saying, she was always like, you're good enough. You can do this. And so there's nothing else I want to do as much. I mean, but I don't know. I love. You
started as a photographer a little later in life, didn't you?
Professionally, yeah. Because I've done it since high school. But and I've done it. So after I graduated from high school, or I didn't really graduate on time, or but after high school, I wanted to be a photographer, and I kind of worked at it. I've always taken pictures, and I've got a little money here and there, a little gig here and there, but I could just never manage to make that pay the bills. And so, I was married and, doing construction or driving a truck or whatever, and doing photography on the side. And just, after one restless night of just like, my life's not going the way I want it to go. I decided that, okay, so if I really want to do photography, what do I need to do? And I thought, well, I need to get in school and really learn. And so I did. I kind of dropped everything and got into BYU kind of miraculously. And I thought it was a good education, but I think more than anything, it gave me confidence. Like having come out of the program, like I kind of worked full time getting through school, doing some photography, but just jobs. When I graduated, I quit and we went for it, and, had some lean years and everything. But Where were we going with this?
No, that's fine. Well, you felt like official when you graduated?
Yeah.
Like you had the license
So I
to really
graduated-
say I'm a photographer.
Yeah, so I graduated from high school in 80, and I graduated from the photo program in 94. So you can see there was a gap in there.
Yeah.
And
Well, it
that-
shows how committed you were to the medium.
Yeah,
I mean, to make those kind of sacrifices.
And since 94, that's what I do for a living. I've never, I haven't really made any money doing anything else since then.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. You can't see it now, but Brad's a very good photographer. Do you have a website?
BradleySlade.com.
Yeah, so check out his work there.
None of it's very new. Bless Michael Sandfill. It was a birthday present from him. And
That's one of your old assistants?
yeah, one of my old assistants. And anyway, I need to probably update it or something, but
Yeah, I should say when I was going to school at Brigham Young University, I worked for Brad as one of his assistants, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. So what's your favorite project you've ever done?
I don't really want to think of it as have done, although really it is. But like I've taken pictures of my kids kind of through their lives. And it's a project that, I mean, I've always taken pictures of my kids, but at one point, like, I got a Hasselblad, and it was a camera that I could kind of leave at the house where I could just pick it up whenever I wanted to take pictures of my kids. And something started to happen where I realized there was something important there. And so I got really serious about it. And I always had a camera with me when I was at home. And I mean, I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of negatives, and I think it's a good body of work. I mean, I still haven't taken the time to, I mean, I've got hundreds of prints from that, but I've still haven't really plumbed all the way through those negatives. But it's funny because it's kind of almost gone away. I mean, I still take pictures of my kids, but it doesn't feel like it's part of the same project. Maybe because I'm now shooting more on digital. I still shoot film once in a while, but it just seems like that project is really kind of closed a bit.
Yeah, no, I really think you should put that together into a show. What do you hope to do in the future with your photography?
That's funny because I just think I'll just keep going, taking pictures of my kids and stuff. But I have been feeling like I read through the questions just now, and I've been thinking, how am I going to answer that? Because I don't know too much. Like I keep thinking I need some cool project to work on. And I know sometimes, like when my father passed away a few years ago, and I took pictures, and a body of work came out of that. And I kind of had this epiphany then that like, maybe I don't need to kill myself looking for a subject, they'll come and then I'll be adequate to do it, I don't know if that sounds funny, but now I'm starting to get the feeling that I need to get more proactive. I really need to create something that, I can't answer that too well, but I'm conscious I need to do something. I need to kind of wake up.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, you could say, your job here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and I feel that way.
Document to the BYU community.
Maybe that's why I don't get around to it, because I feel pretty satisfied doing that. I feel pretty fulfilled. It kind of scratches that itch, but still, I do feel like I'd like to do some things that are just for me.
Yeah. So what's your favorite camera right now, or which one do you work with the most?
I love working with view cameras, but my favorite all-time camera, the one that I just feel the most comfortable with and that its personality matches mine, I love a Hasselblad, but I think the Rolleiflex, I just love that camera. It's so unobtrusive. You can be taking pictures and people just don't, you're not aiming it right at them. And so somehow it doesn't get in the way. Anyway, an elegant piece of machinery. Love that camera.
Do you have the 2.8 or is it 3.5?
2.8. I've got both, but the 2.8 is I especially love.
No, the 2.8 Rolleiflex, I think that's one of the best cameras ever made. I think you put that in the top 10.
Yeah, I think so too.
Still photography cameras ever made.
But right now I'm using a Canon 5D Mark III, which is a good camera. I've been happy with it. I mean, I think that I'm waiting for them to replace it with something new and better, especially, but anyway, yeah. But it's a good camera. It's a good tool. And it's the thing about digital cameras is you don't feel the same kind of relationship. Like the old film cameras, you use it for years and years and years, and you just, like as an object, you just develop a relationship with it. And with digital cameras, that kind of doesn't happen.
No, it's true. I mean, back in the day, like Edward Weston spent his entire career with one camera.
Yeah.
40 years.
Wow.
And there's essentially, that never happens anymore. And similar with Ansel Adams. Dorothea Lange used a few different cameras, but really she used just one, that kind of big chimney Duraflex. And that's part of the reason why I really want to do this, is because I feel like we're losing this heritage of cameras and these people using and growing up. And probably most photographers who were born in the 90s would never even really have this. I mean, they might have a slight relationship with one where they'd shoot a few rolls with it a film with it periodically or something. I've noticed that even if I have a film camera of any sort, it kind of draws attention to itself, like I'm making a point. For me, it was like just the tool I had back in the day. Yeah, but the 5D, I mean, there's a lot of knocking on the 5D because it really is the industry standard, right? But there's a reason for that. It's an extremely versatile camera. It's very solid. It's at a good, reasonable price. That's what made me switch to digital was the 5D. Mm-hmm. I shot with Nikon F100s until the 5D came out. And then I was like, oh, well, this is good enough for me.
And I got to admit that going into the digital age, I was a bit at a loss for a while because, like, with film, once I got, kind of more professional level, I never used 35. I always used medium format or large format. And I used a bunch of different cameras depending on the shoot or the look I was after. And so the idea of kind of going to basically a 35 millimeter camera for kind of everything, like really, like I just could hardly think how I was going to make that work. And, I got tilt shift lenses, and that helped a lot. That really helped bring me in because it was kind of like using a large format camera with the camera movements, but you could use it quickly, and it seduced me now. I really enjoy working with it. But the bodies come and go. The lenses, I've got a relationship now, but the bodies, whatever.
They're interchangeable. Yeah. Just when the new comes out, you buy it.
Yeah,
I know that thing. No romance. Yeah. That's for sure. Because, back in the day, like Nikon, the time between the Nikon F, the Nikon F2, the Nikon F3 was a decade between the release of those two cameras. Now a new camera comes out every 2 years, so it's impossible to form a relationship with it almost. Yeah. So that's an odd question, but I think it's valid. So if your photography were a performance art, what performance art would it be?
Now, I'm not perfectly sure if I understand that question, but I'll go ahead and take a stab at it anyway.
Kind of open.
But I think something emotive, something emotional. Like I tend not to be super cerebral in the way I work or the way I think about taking pictures. I'm usually not out to describe something. I'm usually out to try to capture a feeling, like, what it felt like to be there more than what it looked like to be there, if that makes any sense. But I think there's maybe something bluesy or something, I don't know. I think emotion, though, is probably, at least that's what I feel taking pictures.
Well, that's good. Well, that's really great. I think that's all the questions I've got. But again, to the audience, thank you for listening to this. This is Brad Slade, the BYU Publications and Graphics photographer. And I'd like to encourage you to go get a camera. Thanks a lot. Bye.